Hi, welcome to Statistics 1, Lab 1. As you can see, we're in the R console, and we could type functions into the R console right at the command prompt. So I could ask R, what is 1 plus 2? And R will return the result 3. But you'll see the way these labs will work is we prefer to write our functions and write our code in scripts. So I'm just going to walk you through a script in every lab, and that script will prepare you for each week's assignment. So let me open up the script that I prepared for this first lab, which will prepare you for the first homework. And the purpose of this first lab and the goal of the first homework is basically to just show you how R works, its basic functions, talk about objects, R functions, and what packages are. So let's start at the top here. I'm just going to highlight the first few rows of code and show you that, R, one way to think of R at the beginning, especially if you're new to this, is it's like a fancy calculator. So we can just do basic mathematical operations. So I'm just going to execute this little bit of code. And if I now go back to the console, you'll see that R executed 3 plus 4, giving the result of 7. 5 times 5 is 25. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 5 to the 5th power is 3,125. So we can do basic mathematical functions. Okay? Now let me go back to the script. A basic distinction in R is between what I call R objects and R functions. So let's look at some R objects. The most basic object in R is a vector. So let's create a vector. I'm just going to execute this little bit of code. Go back to the console. And now you see we created a vector called v using the C command, which stands for combine or concatenate. We just combined these 4 numbers into a vector. And that's a numeric vector. So let's go back to the script. And now let's create a list. A list is slightly different from a vector. A list can contain elements of different classes. So a vector has to have all of the same class. So that last one we created was a numeric vector. We could have created a character vector. But now I want to create a list of items, some character strings, some integers. So let's execute that. Now we created a list called L, and you see it has the word blue, and then it has the integer 2, and so on. Now, we can also create matrices, and we'll be working with, mainly we'll be working with matrices in future assignments and future labs. So it's important that you understand what a matrix is and how to access elements in a matrix. So let's create a matrix, call it M. Now we have this matrix M. It's just the integers 1 to 6. And I gave it the dimensions 2 rows and 3 columns. And you'll see my comment here, matrix creation is column-wise. What that means is R took the integers 1, 2, then 3, 4. It went down the columns instead of across the rows. That's what I mean by matrix creation is column-wise. Okay, back to the script. We could also create a matrix from a vector and then add the dimensionality using the dim function. So if I execute that, back to the console, you see that we created another matrix, M2. It's the same as M. And we added dimensionality just by using the dim function and again that C function. As we go forward in the course, we're going to be using matrices a lot. So let me show you one more way of creating a matrix. Here we're going to create it by binding columns and rows. So we have X is just a vector of 1 to 6, Y a vector of 5 to 10, and then we can use the functions cbind and rbind. And then we have a 2 by 6 matrix. Finally, you can always check the attributes of a matrix by using a function called attributes. And the attributes for M, remember that was back up here, that's just a 2 by 3 matrix. And if you want to call a particular cell in a matrix, then you just use the open brackets and then which row and which column you would like to access. So M open bracket 1 comma 2 will give me the integer 3, because in my M matrix, it's the first row, second column is the number 3. Finally, let's talk about data frames. This is what we're going to be working on. At the beginning, I said think of R as a fancy calculator where you can do mathematical operations. So you're used to doing probably mathematical operations on simple variables like we did at the beginning, but what we'll be doing in statistics is we'll be doing statistical analyses on data frames. It's analogous to doing mathematical operations on variables. So what is a data frame? Well, a data frame is a matrix, but it's a matrix that can store different classes of objects. And typically what I'll do is I'll just provide you with a data frame or a data set on the course website, and you'll just read that data set into R using the read.table function, which is right here. But in this lab, we'll just create a data frame so you can see what it looks like. So we can create a data frame in R. There's a function called data.frame. So let's do that. So we created a data frame using the data.frame function, and I called it D. And then I just printed it by typing D at the command prompt, or actually it's in the script. And there's the data frame. You can ask R how many rows are in your data frame, how many columns. Again, you could check the attributes. Again, you could call a particular cell in the data frame. So let's do all of those in one step since we did most of this with matrices. Okay, so we asked number of rows with the nRow function. There are 5. We asked number of columns with the nCol function. There are 3. We check the attributes. It gives us the names of the variables or column headers. It gives us the row names, and it gives us the class. This is a data frame. And then we called particular cells in the data frame. Again, the same way we did when we were looking at matrices, because a data frame is just a fancy matrix, and this is what we're going to work with mostly in future labs. We can also, whoops, don't want to move my code. We can also display a data frame and edit a data frame with the view and edit functions. I'm not actually going to run those because I want to move down to the last piece. Also, you can get help on a function just by typing in question function name. So anytime you want to ask R, what does this function do? Like if you want to know what the edit function does, just type in question mark edit. Finally, an important thing that we all need to do before the next lab and the next assignment is you need to know how to install packages, because R consists of lots and lots of packages, and a package just is a bunch of functions that people have created, and there are lots of them. If you go to the R homepage, you can see there are lots and lots of packages. One that we'll work with at the beginning is called psych. So install the psych package by typing in the function install.packages and then putting psych in parentheses and in quotes. Let's do that. And you'll see what R does is it asks you to select a CRAN mirror. CRAN just stands for Comprehensive R Archive Network. And you just have to pick a location that's close to you. So I'm going to pick Maryland. There actually isn't a New Jersey one. I'm in New Jersey, but Maryland's close, so I'll pick that. This may take a second. Oh, it's there. So now, after you've installed the psych package, you have to load the package, and you just do that with the library command. So just library psych. Let's go back to the console. It doesn't return anything, so let me just make sure that it's there. To make sure, I can just type search at the R command prompt, and then look through my output from search, and I should see that I have the psych package. Yep, there it is. Okay, so now I've installed the psych package. That has a bunch of functions that we're going to use, especially in the first couple of weeks. Throughout this course, we'll download and install lots of packages, but for now, all we need is the psych package and the basic packages that come with the initial install and download of R, like stats and graphics and so on. So that's it. That's all you'll need to complete the first assignment. So I'm going to end this first lab, and I'm going to quit out of R. I can do that several ways. I'm just going to go up to the R menu and quit R. It will ask you if you want to save changes. I actually made a couple changes to my script, so I'm going to save that. It will also ask you if you want to save your workspace image. This is everything that came up in the R console. Since I saved the script, I don't need to save that, and I rarely ever do, so I'm not going to save that. And that's the end of Lab 1. See you next week.